Unlocking request accepted.
Good morning, New Eden. Today is October 11th, 2025, and this is the Federation Frontline Report. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and today we have a very special guest that's going to be joining, or that has joined us. Fluffy Neko is running for CSM. Welcome, Fluffy.
Welcome everybody to watching this beautiful stream today. My name is Fluffy Neko and I'm running for CSM 20. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, yeah. Thanks for coming on the show, and we love to talk about these upcoming elections and everything. And from my understanding, this is your first run for CSM.
Yes, that's exactly correct. This is my first run for CSM, and I've only actually been playing for 2 years, so I didn't really feel like running last year, and I kind of didn't even understand what the CSM stood for until like a year ago or something.
So speaking of which, what is the CSM to you? How do you see the CSM? What do you think they can accomplish or have accomplished?
So as far as what I've seen and what I've heard from others, the CSM is basically a group of advisors that communicates with the CCP directly, and CCP obviously they do what CCP does, as we all know that, but they consult the CSM on certain issues, certain things that happen in the game, and certain ways that they can implement features. So, in a sense, essentially, they are a bridge between the community and CCP itself, and they kind of do a lot of heavy lifting on the front of getting the community's voice straight into the game's development.
Awesome. And are you familiar with any of the things that they have already implemented, or that have been things that have been CSM ideas that you're familiar with yourself?
Yes, so one of the things that it applies to me as well a lot has been Shul's work with the incursions. So basically, a long time ago, there were groups that just immediately killed the high-sec incursions just because they could, and Shul lobbied a bit, plus a few others joined as far as I know. And now the mechanics have been changed a tiny bit. Also, a lot of other features have been directly or indirectly been influenced by how what the CSM thinks about it. For example, I think skyhooks probably have been one of these things. So yeah, they have some power over what the game is about and how the game plays.
Awesome. And then we'll get into more about what you're looking to do with the CSM. But let's start off with kind of learning more about you. So how did you learn about EVE Online? What'd you do when you first got involved? What really got you into this game?
Oh yeah, so I think EVE Online is one of those games that you just find at like 3 a.m. by searching to something completely irrelevant. Then you find like one or two videos on YouTube. They put like EVE, they like show you these cool ships. They show you it's like a space game. Build this, get connected with so many people, and there's like a lot of depth to it. There's a ton of story. It's been playing since 2003, I think. So that has been my moment. I found it on a YouTube video. I wasn't particularly looking at any game, and it just came up to me. That was about 10 or so years ago. That was my first time playing, but as you're probably familiar with, the first time is not always the time that gets you hooked on the game. So for me, that only lasted for a pretty brief period. And I actually only really started playing about 2 years ago. That's about how old my main character is, and I think the biggest thing that kept me going was the community. I got into a pretty nice corp, been there for the last 2 years, and as probably you can also attest to it, community is really what keeps the game together. Solo is not really that much fun.
Yeah, solo is definitely a much harder aspect of the game. I mean, there's a lot of solo content definitely to be done. And, the very beginning of the game can be done definitely very solo. But once you get to like the meat of what you're doing and even why you're playing the game is because you're part of this intergalactic play that's going on in Eve. So yeah, it's definitely a game where you it's really reliant on the different groups that are existent that are trying to provide different types of content in Eve. So what was the first content that you got drawn into when it comes to Eve? What was this corp that you joined about?
So we started out as a small-scale wormhole operations. Basically, we started out going in from high sec, and I think it took us like month or two until we actually committed to full-time living in wormholes with all of its glory and all of its issues. Uh, wormholes are, for those that are not very familiar, basically it's a choose your own neighbor style living. The connections die off every like 16 hours. So when you wake up tomorrow, you're gonna get new neighbors. Sometimes good, sometimes obviously bad. And there's also a tiny bit more danger, I would say, in certain cases. So if you die and you forget to scan your way out, you're obviously locked out of your home, which kind of sucks if you ask me. But I mean, yeah, not all of the game has to be completely safe. So that's just a bonus, I guess.
Yeah, you have no local. You have the wormholes are not permanent connections to anywhere. It's an interesting aspect to the game. I've personally only focused on like using it as a highway and to like delve into it for a short amount of time, and then like run some NPC sites or kill somebody, and then jump out again. Living there, is a pretty hardcore, and in fact, actually not something CCP anticipated people would do. Um, Funnily enough, I mean, yeah, I feel like it's an obvious thing, looking at it now, that people would live in wormholes, but that was, these were considered to be like the harshest, craziest environments that you could get these like Tech 3 technologies out of it. Um, is there anything that you've experienced inside of wormhole space that you think is something that needs to be changed? Or are there aspects of wormhole life that you think need to be improved at this point?
Well, wormholes haven't really received any updates for quite a while now, so the whole content that is inside of wormholes shows its age pretty badly. For example, all the PV is pretty lackluster compared to what you have in even like nullsec. It doesn't have escalations. It doesn't have a lot of other things. But I think the core mechanics are pretty solid. Basically, if you think about wormholes, they are the gates of they're like gates, except it's like mass limited and they also die and you get new ones. But really, what I think could use a pretty big update is probably the content that's inside the wormholes. PV could use a bit more dynamic way of thinking, and also like the relic sites are also like everything is basically repetitive. Let's condense it into this. The wormholes are very much overdue for an expansion.
But Sawdeath asks here, if chosen for CSM 20, what would you bring to the table and what would you give to CCP as far as the direction of the game goes, besides on what you've said so far? So yeah, that is something that I was about to actually jump into. So let's go into your platform that you're running here. What are you bringing to the table? It sounds like you have a strong wormhole background. Is there any other things that you're specialized in, or have a great understanding of the game, or if you want to delve more into the platform of what you're bringing from wormhole side?
Yeah, it's nice that we get questions. So basically, I've been living in the wormhole for 2 years at this point, so I had the experience of experiencing most of the things you can do in them and many of the ways you can do in them. But that's not the only thing that I've done, obviously. So other things I do lately, I've been running fleets with e-rookies. That mainly means PV and industry like mining and those things that you can do in high sec. I kind of suck at PvP. I'll tell you that much. That's not really my thing. But yeah, not everybody has to be good at PvP. You know, somebody has to make your ship. Somebody has to take out the new people. Have to teach them how to make money, etc., etc.
Well, I mean, every
But
action in Eve is kind of a PvP action. And so, like it just building something means there's more of something on the market, like that you didn't buy
yeah,
it from somebody. There's
yeah, that's
there's a whole like intricate like that, and that kind of goes back to the idea of why community is so important, is because there's such an interconnected play that's going on. Um, you've done some PvP, but just you're more interested in the PvE. And is industrial another, like, are you really into building a lot of stuff?
I wouldn't really say I'm deep. I wouldn't just say I'm deeply into industry. I'm more say I'm like very much curious about it. I have had my trials into getting into it a bit more. I do have some alts trained as well to start making things. I just never really found the time to sit down and get started making some tools, finding some tools, getting the recipes together, etc., etc. But I have been trying, and that's something that I really would love to get into. But going back to the question a tiny bit, I don't really want to change anything like anything big. I don't want to change the word. So that I would just like to get CCP to fix their tiny issues, the tiny things that makes you angry, the tiny things that make everyone angry in the game, and I'll let the other CSMs want to change the word. Like if they want to change the word by deleting parts of the game, that they can campaign for that. But I just want people to have the tiny annoyances, like you unlock the station, you get blinded, you could get that fixed. You just need a vote and stuff like that. And yeah, if you have problems with the industry as well, I would very much love to hear those as well. And industry is a big part of the game. The pipeline is there. Somebody mines the ore, somebody makes the ship goes out, the ship gets blown up, and then somebody
So
has
are
to
you
buy it
familiar
again.
with
It's an infinite
the
cycle.
are you familiar with the little things, like dev post and stuff like that, that devs have been collecting for a long time, what the different little annoyances are in Eve that they're trying to rectify, slowly as they go through them, but it's one of those every patch kind of thing. So are you familiar with the current complaints of what people have?
Yeah, so I have asked a lot of people, plus obviously I fly with a lot of new people, and they also tell me during the fleet that, hey, I tried to do this, but this doesn't work. And then a lot of the times the reply is, yeah, because it just doesn't work that way, because the game is not made that way. So what I hear from most of the people, I would say, is like two things usually, at least for the PV front. One is containers, like station containers, and how you cannot like construct stuff out of it or like fit ships through them. That like, a lot of people would want that, and I don't think that would be a big thing to change. It wouldn't really change the balance and stuff. And also with the latest, I guess, graphics updates, lots of people having graphical or like sound issues, which I think could use a bit more looking into because it doesn't really seem like they're getting fixed. I'm very much on the, like I know that like the CSM could go and tell CCP, hey, like you have so many people say that this is broken. Can you like, look into it? CSM could do that.
Are you familiar
And
with the
also what?
jukebox?
No, sorry.
Oh God, man, they got to bring back the jukebox if you're going to talk about sound and stuff like that. So back in the day, they let you like cycle through songs and like pick the song that you wanted to
Oh,
listen to, and they even introduced it a little bit in the as an April Fool's joke or something like that into the fucking launcher. So there is like a backdoor system to get it into the launcher, but I'm just like, put it in fucking game. Like, just let me listen to my music and that I want to listen to, because Eve has some really good music, but it gets kind of stale for, like, when you're sitting in a station and stuff like that. Like, it tries to, even when you turn dynamic off, I feel like it still is trying to be dynamic to, like, the area of where you are, whether you're in outer space or not, whether you're in a flex or not or something, and then it like limits your soundtrack. And it's like, I just want to like pick out below the asteroids every time, right? Like,
I mean, yeah, that could be one more thing that we try to get CCP to edit back. I think probably the biggest thing is just people are afraid to speak up. People are afraid to go out and say that, hey, I've won this, and other people could join that. We also won this. We also won this. Because CCP definitely not going to spend time implementing features that just like one person wants. But if people band together, that could like spend some more time on it. Obviously, the CSM has a pretty big role in this, as CSM is what's bridging between the community. But so far, I haven't really seen anybody reach out like this, like, hey, this, and vote on the issues kind of thing. So it's like enough votes, then I would present and stuff like that. I haven't really seen anybody do those yet, or at least not in the communities that I'm part of. That could be another thing. Yeah, CCP took out a lot of things from the game. I remember there's been a browser as well a long time ago, or something
there was
like
a
that.
browser a long time ago. There was a browser that they had inside of the game, but I think that with the way that computers went, it made sense to pull the browser out of not having to support all of those potential security risks that come with having a browser in your own custom browser that you've built inside the game is a security concern. But yeah, so tell us a little bit more about what you would be advocating for, and what you kind of see the future of Eve being like.
So I think Eve is a game is kind of going in the wrong direction somewhat. With all of the offshoot, like the spin-off projects that CCP is branching into, trying to kind of like split away the people. I'm not 100% on board with those, but obviously that's not really a CSM topic. That's just my thoughts about them. But realistically, if you knew a bit more about how CCP picks up what to do and how they do it, people would probably be a bit more understanding of why things are happening. So what I would love to see is a bit more open up the development process a tiny bit. Get some dev blogs out and stuff like that. If you ever played Factorio, you know that they used to, I think they still put up weekly blogs about, hey guys, we changed this thing this week, and then we made that thing better this week, and then that's really nice because it connects well with the community. Unlike if you throw out a big ass patch note every month or like half a year when you do a expansion, that doesn't really connect with the community as well, I think. So that's really one thing. And as I was saying before, I would love to see the tiny things changed. And also, there are a lot of things that haven't really received a patch. So maybe instead of getting, I don't know, 2 more ships that are just pure power creep, doesn't fit into the meta, they could really focus on the areas of the game that haven't been updated. Probably not many people are gonna agree, but for example, missioning hasn't been updated in ages. Wormholes hasn't been updated in ages, and as far as I know, like low-sec things, faction warfare is still basically Avox Wonderland. As far as I can hear from my corp mates as well, that they could also do something about that, for example. And I could see myself advocating for all of those because those affect me. Those affect, I think, almost everybody in the in their career, especially if they are just starting out.
Yeah, so you mentioned something that let's two things that I definitely want to kind of highlight a little bit more is your ideas on and let's start with the first one of just missions. What do you feel would be improvements that could be made to missions? Are you looking for major overhaul, just a bounty overhaul, like a mission payout overhaul? What kind of um, changes are you looking to make or understand in the mission running area? Because that is an
So
area that's
obviously,
been for a long time untouched.
yeah, obviously the first step would be to just get the rework on how the payouts work, because right now, even if you do level 4 missions in a battleship or something, payouts are basically nothing compared to other things you can do with the same ship. So there could be at least like a rework on how the payout, like how much the payout is, make it align a bit more with how much inflation there has been since since missions came out, because there just haven't been anything. And obviously after that they could work, they could just do like an expansion on like missions. Obviously they could get like nullsec aligned with this as well, because nullsec could have missions as well, obviously. So I think all in all, PvE could get an expansion in itself. It could very well be just that you just run your normal sites, and instead of just, you get one escalation, you could get like a chain of missions, like the epic arcs, just shorter, like a few missions chained together. And you like after that, you could feel like you actually accomplished something instead of saving the distress, the princess, like 20 times in a row. You could actually feel like that, hey, I did like 5 missions and it actually pays well. It's actually more interesting than spinning Ishtars or something. And that could get a few more people. And obviously not everyone is here for the PvP. Some people don't do PvP that much. That could also tie in with that. And obviously they really wanted to, they could just bring out more ships as well as they do now. They could do the usual changes, but just, get some people on it, look into it, change numbers, maybe some descriptions and stuff. But like, they get it changed, because it's been way too long and it just feels too stale.
Absolutely. And then, so for faction warfare, what kind of interactions have you had with it? It sounds like your corporation has had some issues with AWOXing. So there is a lot of like difference depending on who you join or what faction or what area of the space that you are fighting, even within the same faction. Can you tell us a little bit of your history of your knowledge of faction warfare space?
Yeah, so I actually did some faction warfare. I flew for like a few weeks back then. I have some corp mates who basically do this as a living, and I was also flying a few fleets with the faction warfare part of Eve Rookies, which is sadly right now on a hiatus for quite a while. The person who was mainly running it, he got burned out. So yeah, that's just Eve Online for you. But what I saw, what I've heard from most of the people, generally what happens is either they bring in like 5 or so drone thingies and they either kill you in the last second or just make you leave in other ways. That's I mean, obviously it's EVE Online. You can do whatever you want. It's a sandbox game for that reason. But if you think about it from another way, you guys are part of the same faction, and why are you killing yourself? Like, you don't go to your corporates and kill
Which
them.
faction did you join?
Ivrukis was part of Guristas, but I also flown with the Angels because those guys in my corp were flying for the Angels at that time, and it did feel like kind of both has it to some level. I cannot really tell you which one is worse at this point, but I hear it from almost all the sides that they all have like 1 or 2 corporations or alliances, for that matter, that will happily kill you or just come in and take a reward and go away. CCP did make some changes to this actually. That's worth mentioning in my opinion. So they made it a bit harder to join if you have negative standings. But I don't think that really fixes anything, because obviously they just biomass their accounts and then just make a new one. That's not really a fix in itself. The only fix, in my opinion, and I feel like talking to others, is probably if they cut into their payouts in some way, because that would make them feel pain. But it's probably similar to the projection issue in a way that no matter what they do, it's gonna be bad for someone else as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, so there are a few things that come to mind with this because I've been being in faction warfare. I can kind of maybe give you a little bit of an assistance of understanding. So I've been in faction warfare since the very beginning. Been part of Galente, helped build up a corporation. Ended up going to Goons for a few years, and then came back to faction warfare, where I've kind of nestled myself in. And I love this, like the ability to live in low sec, to have low sec activities, to participate in fighting on your front door a lot of the times. There's just a lot of really good things, and literally there are, I would say AWOXing is one of the really interesting ones that has been an issue for a really long time. And the for me is actually one of the things that I've less had to deal with, because Galente have always been seen as a much lesser place to make money, and it's all about money, basically. In the end, AWOXing is, they're trying to prevent you from participating in activities that make them money, right? Because if there wasn't money in it, they probably wouldn't go through the hassle of AWOXing you, which is why you see a lot less of a problem in the Galente-ish area than you do in the Amar or in the Kaldari, or specifically the Angels and the Garistas are extremely overpaid on what their LP is worth. If you're going to compare it to standard faction warfare LP stores, the money is way in, so everything's kind of, so it's not a surprise to see the pirates all killing each other. They're all a bunch of pirates. They're not really a militia, they're a bunch of fucking greedy ass pirates who are going to manipulate the game to kill each other, and that's kind of Eve, to be honest. There is complaining about it and understanding because it's a video game. So you're looking for some semblance of fair, but looking as somebody that's been tempted very hard to come over to the pirate faction because of the wealth and just the novelty of it is another big thing. So a lot of people joined up. A lot of people were looking for ways to make money. It was obvious there's an insane amount of money to be made in faction warfare pirate side. And you're not seeing that bonus on the Galente side or even the Kaldari side as to a reason why to stop these or go fight and go be participant in. There's usually it comes down to different other reasons why people, like, you're around in their space and they want to PvP and stuff. But faction warfare, one thing I will say about faction warfare is that we've gotten an insane amount of love since I started my podcast. And I'm not going to say my podcast is the reason for that, but I'm going to say my podcast is the reason for this, because all the things that we've kind of asked for have basically been delivered upon since the very beginning of our show. And I told a lot of people, just give it time. I know they're coming back to faction warfare. But there is still like a little things. We'll see if this change in standings, needing to have positive standings. Like you said, they can just biomass, but they still have to be careful. You lose a lot of those skill points are important. Injecting is expensive. Time is money. A brand new character is definitely not as useful as other characters. And getting a character up to snuff costs money, and like I said, it's all about the money, right? So you want to be able to make sure that you have a system that is careful about a lot of... I've seen a lot of crazy shit being thrown around about how to deal with AWOXing, and you have to be super careful because, one, accidents fucking happen. like first, one of the big things that I've personally feel like is important is that we should have something that allows for um, fleets to be able to shoot each other without getting the standings penalty. You still have the problems of people trying to join your fleet, but it's a lot easier to mitigate that than having it, be general wide. Um, but smart bombs can't be used by faction warfare players for fear of losing standings at this point in time. Accidents happen, like crazy shit happens all the time when it comes to like on the war field, what in the battle, what's happening. Um, and it playing Logi, especially if you mess around with any kind of DPS, like because you want to get on the kill mail, becomes a lot more dangerous in faction warfare. Um, so yeah, there's a lot in faction warfare that I think needs to be possibly looked at. The one thing that I would encourage though over AWACSing is to look at the LP store, because that helps the AWACSing thing. I think that in general it should be easier to make money out of your LP, but you should make less LP for your money. Um, or less money for you per LP, but make it a lot easier for new players in order to turn that into something that's actually valuable. Like the LP store, LP wallets, these are big things. Now I know Young Puke is a huge advocate and has been working on a lot of this stuff, um, and that's somebody that's interesting in faction warfare. But do you have anything specific that you think would help the AWACSing that you would be advocating for as CSM?
Honestly, it is one of the hardest questions in the game because, as you said as well, no matter what CCP does or like how they're trying to fix it, it's always going to also hurt someone else. And I would love to minimize collateral damage. So they already did a step in the good direction, and I don't think we are seeing the full effect of the changes yet. And once we actually do, well, I mean, maybe CCP has the data. Who knows? We can reiterate as needed. So yeah, basically, we could make changes. We could make it that like if you do this or that, you don't get paid, or you get paid less.
That's a
That's
big
really the
one that
thing.
I've been hearing about, is like you don't get you lose so much time, X amount of time, that you can't make LP, because like I said, it's all about the money, right? So if AWACSing is
Yeah.
profitable, there is the giggles, right? And giggles it's hard to stop. Giggles is like, that's where biomassing and just making a new, like that, nobody gives a fuck of. All they're trying to do is AWACS you. They're not trying to do it for any kind of profit-based system. They're just trying to get a rise out of people, and I think that gets to a level of almost griefing. So, and that becomes like an enforceable, uh, even though CCP is historically not really given two shits or a giggle about. Griefing to them is, you have to really push the line, like compared to almost any other video game. So
I mean, if you've ever played the mobile version of EVE Online, you actually have to click a little button that I agree to PvP. And that's really something that's true for the big EVE Online as well. Whenever you unlock, you kind of assume that you will be shot at. Like, at least you should assume that you will be shot at. So, at what point does it become harassment? That's always a good question, and I think that should be like thought about on a case by case basis. Just because they come in and shoot you, it doesn't mean that they're harassing you. I don't think so, because you obviously agree to PvP by unlocking. A better way, like that's also true. For example, if you get ganged in high sec, you also agree to that because you unlocked. And in low sec, there's actually free PvP, so if you go there, you kind of assume you will be shot at because you're also war lagged, and they can shoot you anywhere basically, either way.
Yeah, this kind of gives me an idea on just like some questions that I have regarding how do you feel about the more dark nature of EVE Online? That it is that like how do you feel about scamming and stuff like that in EVE Online and ganking and high sec? Is there anything that you feel needs to be changed in these regards? Do you feel that these are predatory kind of actions that need to be removed from Eve, or do you feel that this is what makes Eve unique?
Well, one part it does make Eve a very unique game because obviously there's a lot of power that the game gives you in certain ways. For example, not looking too far, nullsec, and all of the tools that they have to look up your assets and etc. etc. So they know what you have, and if they really wanted to, they could just come to you and hey, give us this, and then else they would kick you. And then CCP probably wouldn't care. The same way, I don't know. You definitely remember there had been multiple cases of like nullsec alliance leaders stealing trillions of assets, and CCP is like, meh, that happened. That's your issue, not mine.
Well, they were like, "Oh,
Because
that's a fucking world news headline that thousands, of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, get stolen by somebody in a virtual environment." And CCP's like, "Yep, that's our game." Like that's what they did. They they,
yeah,
they they took it all. But
yeah,
the
like
thing is that they didn't hack them. They didn't cheat. They didn't do it. Like the rules of the game was that hey, if you have corporate rights to this hangar, then it's as much yours as it is anybody else's, and it's a shared communal thing. And if you, but it's very, you know,
I mean, it's an asshole
libertarian on
move,
it, where it's
obviously.
like if I take it, it's mine. Like it was the corpse, but now it's mine.
Yeah, well,
Super
obviously it
capitalism.
was an asshole move to steal trillions of income. It's not denying that. But this is just how the game is like. If you set it up wrong, they will steal it because that's kind of how it goes. And tying back to what you specifically asked, obviously, what is harassment? What is scamming? What is what? So I think that should be thought of in a case basis, because obviously, if you type in Jita that send me X ISK, I'll send you back twice as much, and they send you ISK willingly, that's kind of on them, because it's everywhere on the internet that people do this. They have been doing this ever since we have chat in EVE Online. So I'm not particularly concerned with those. And as for high sec ganking, obviously again, it's part of the game. I do not think EVE Online should be safe. Not even high sec should be completely safe, because I don't think that would work well with the game. So there should always be a kind of danger looming over you, because that makes it a bit more interesting. Like it makes the game unique. If it was completely safe, we could talk about the mobile Eve where I think in high sec you cannot gank and stuff like that. That's just boring. What do you do in high sec now? Like at least now you kind of have to think. If you are flying a freighter, you have to think ahead. You need to be on your feet. You need to know certain tactics, and that kind of gives the game a bit more depth, in my opinion. So I don't think it should be removed. I mean, obviously, if a certain kind of thing becomes an issue, it could be looked into, it could be changed, because, like, if all of the freighters got killed tomorrow, that would impact the whole economy of the game. It could lead to it crashing. It could lead to a lot of bad things,
Right, they
and
released
that's not
something
really.
that just makes it so that all freighters die, by, this ship just, one ship just destroys a freighter in one shot. But that's the only thing that the ship does. That could possibly cause an economic crisis in the entire game. Like, so that he'd have to reevaluate that change. I would say at this point, though, the game, with what is currently in it, is, yeah, that we've got a stable-ish economy, right? Like, things work out. You don't fly super expensive shit in high sec. Like I'm a person that has long, I'm an old fucking fart, so I look at high sec and I go, that's the most dangerous part of space, because like when I have like 50 people that I don't know in system with me, I'm like, that's fucked up. Who the fuck are you? Like, you're all fucking enemies. You're all evil. Fuck you. You're all trying to kill me. I don't trust the goddamn. Like you can become easily paranoid in Eve. That anybody that's not your friend, and that's where it kind of goes back to like AWOXing being in a problem. Whether that should be an allowed kind of thing is that when trust is really the big thing in Eve Online, that is really important. But Eve has also always been on the side of, even if you're friends with somebody, they can AWOX you, they can hurt you, and any kind of like, oh, the game says you're friends with each other should be looked at suspiciously. AWOXing is definitely a part of the game, along with ganking, along with scamming and everything. That it's always, you should be suspect of anybody that's not really your friend. No good deal goes unpunished. So
I mean, again, that's just really how Eve works. And if they took all of that away, I think a lot of people would just stop playing because they're so used to it being like that. And that's really one thing that makes Eve such a unique experience, is you have to put trust in somebody you don't know, like your corp mates, etc., etc., and hope that they aren't gonna be bad. But on the other hand, you can obviously just leave anytime you want, and then just find new people as well. So yeah, Eve is very good. Eve is very unique,
very,
and I
very
think
unique.
that's really what we love in it. Why we play.
Yeah, so before we wrap up, I want to make sure, is there anything about your platform or about your experience in EVE Online or what you want to bring? Now, I kind of want to point out that you are extremely young in game, technically, when it comes to like CSM members. A lot of CSM have been playing this game for 10 plus years. Is there anything that you think being a newer player gives you an advantage? When it comes to being on the CSM? Is there a point of view that you think that somebody that has only been playing a few years really gets above somebody that has just been in nullsec for the last 15 years and hasn't really done the new player experience at all?
Yes, I do believe that because I'm pretty new to the game, it gives an edge over some of the other CSM candidates. So obviously, and you've been playing for 15 years, you're getting yourself into a rhythm. You get yourself into, I like this, I like that, I know this, I don't care about that. But when you just start out in the game, you come with a completely different mindset that, hey, what is that? What is that? I want to try that. I want to try that as well. And obviously, my knowledge about the game is most certainly a lot less than anybody who's been playing for 10 to 15 years. And I'll give that. That's true. But on the other hand, I have experienced the game in a completely different way, in a much newer way than what they have. They have completely different standards. They have a completely different like mindset about how they play the game and how I would play, or how a new person would play the game. And unless they're interacting with a lot of new people, they won't really understand the specific struggles that new people are feeling, because they are just so used to these struggles that they are in the game. So, like, realistically, if you think about it, because I'm new, I would say I can feel the pain of the other new people a bit better than what they are feeling, because I am not as experienced as they are, and I'm not used to the bad features that the game provides us.
Yeah, Caviar Liberta says, yeah, being a new player brings means that you're more attuned to being to the new player experience and stuff like that too. So yeah, that's very good point. Awesome. And before we fully wrap on up here, is there any kind of shout outs that you want to give? Anybody that you've been working with, or anybody that's kind of helped you along this path, that's mentored you, or any other CSM candidates that you are feel deserve a shout out?
Oh yeah, most certainly. So first of all, I would like to thank my corporation for actually having me for so long, because honestly, without being in a such a loving corp, I would have quit EVE a long time ago. So if you guys want to play for a long time, find people that you love working with, that you love flying with, and that's gonna keep you playing for a while. So that's for my corp, and as for others, basically I'm part of eRookies as an FC, and a big part of my inspiration of why I'm running comes from one of those. So basically, the big boss of eRookies, she's also running as a CSM member, and she actually has been on CSM once. That would be Kishal Aderon. Big shout out goes to her for helping me set things up, help me understand things, and for leading such an awesome community. Also, do check out the rookies if you're new, because we host a lot of new bro friendly fleets. You guys can just come and fly whatever, wherever, and however you like. Also, thank you personally for having me on this little chat. I love talking with people, and I think EVE Online is a wonderful game. So thanks CCP as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a really great interview, and I wish you the best of luck. And we will see how things kind of work out here. There's a lot of, so one of the big things that you kind of announced to me, what was it? 59, did you say? Or
56 CSM candidates 56. This year, by the way. Like
56 candidates this year. That's a lot of interviews that I am going to try and to jump out on. So they just officially announced that, what was it, yesterday?
Yeah, like a day or two ago.
So yeah, lots of competition, lots of stuff that's going on here. And but we do have choice rank voting, so you can put your most liked but least likely person at the very top, and like it'll filter down to other people if that person doesn't get in, which is an interesting kind of thing. Is there anything, before we go real quick here, is like, do you like the voting system that they have for CSM, or do you think that there's a better voting system? And so you don't need to go deep into this if you don't have any idea. This was one thing real quick that I just thought of, that as we were talking about the voting system. Is this the best voting system for a 10-person council?
Well, I honestly believe that what CCP does a pretty good idea, because obviously if you can only vote for like one person and they don't get in, a lot of the votes get lost, and they wanted to minimize how many votes are actually lost. So like the tiny people, like you would only get like 100 votes, but then your next pick would get like 3,000, and then they barely not get in, but since the first person ran out, your votes now filter over to the next dude. So I do think this is a pretty good voting system for what the CCP is trying to accomplish here. So guys, please go and fill out all 10 of yours. Just go watch interviews, like try to find the 10 people, because even maybe the 10th person is going to be that one that barely gets in because you picked them as the 10th person. So make sure you guys fill out your chances.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for coming on, or thank you, Fluffy, for coming on to the show here, and have a great night.
Have a night, everyone, as well. Good luck. Good night. Fly safe.